Welcome back to the show. Many thanks for staying with us. Well, the state of the country's security remains a major concern to all of us. Issues regarding electoral violence, party militialism, chieftaincy, and ethnic conflicts have dominated discussions on news portals for a couple of months now. Quite disturbing. Well, for many of us, it is the responsibility of government to stop this before it escalates. And that notwithstanding, civil society organizations have also been active in their own ways, to help us deal with some of these conflicts and push for peace. The West Africa Network for Peace Building, WANEP, is one of such civil society organizations which is working to ensure continuous peace in the country. Well, that organization is marking its 20th anniversary. And on that occasion, we're asking how much more work needs to be done to sustain the peace and stamp out conflicts of all forms. I'm joined in the studio by the Regional Coordinator for Research, Monitoring and Evaluation, Vincent Azuma. Mr. Azuma, you're welcome to the show. Thank you very much. And also here in the studio is Mrs. Bijoue Birch. She is Officer in charge of Peace Education as well as Women in Peace Building. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Let's start off the conversation. I'm just going to ask you for your thoughts. I mean, what does WANEP think about the state of security in Ghana at the moment, since they say, I'm all for women empowerment, so ladies first in this case?
Okay, security is everybody's business. We have passed the era when security lies in the hands only the state, when we use the eyes of the military to look at security issues. So we are now talking about human security when everyone is involved in decision making, in ensuring that we have security and everyone is safe. So in Ghana, WANEP has been working for the past 20 years, and we have our national office, which is based in Tamale. And I've been working with Tamale, been working in Volta region, part of Western region, and there has been a lot of work that has been done. Women have been involved as well. So for instance, when you are talking about early warning, we are talking about women's role in early warning, to be able to give information, and then when the information is given, how the information is analyzed, for instance, and we are talking about various recommendations to the various policy making bodies that are in Ghana and how they can intervene. And of course, we are talking about women being involved also in mediation in their various communities, in contribution towards peace in their various communities and the society at large. Of course, the youth is also involved. So when you look into early warning, for instance, with that, we have youth that are very much involved. When we are talking about giving early warning, again, we are talking about youth being peaceful in schools, for instance, and how they can vehicle that is part of their contribution to peace in the country and in their society.
So at this point, what would you say the state, or if you were to describe the state of security in Ghana, how would you put it?
How will I put it? There's call for concern. We see a lot of citizens being concerned. So we will say that security has become everybody's business in Ghana, and everybody is very much involved. Decision making, how it's going to be implemented. We will not paint a gloom picture. Conflict is not static. It's how you approach it and how you resolve it that is more important. So we keep pushing for dialogue. So the state of security calls for more dialogue and more talk among stakeholders to be able to secure the peace that we have and to be able to do away with the various threats for security that
Interesting
we have.
The way you put it. And along the line, we'll talk about the conflicts, especially in the northern region. You say you have your office in Tamale, and I'm sure it's for a strategic reason. We'll have cause to talk about that. But Mr. Vincent, let me come to you and find out what your own thoughts are concerning how we have dealt with these chieftaincy conflicts. For example, what's happening in the northern region. Just yesterday, today we've been doing the story about how over 2,000 women and children have been displaced in Tripoli, for example. They're not even living in Tripoli. They've been moved to neighboring communities because the place is still volatile. How do you think we've dealt with it over the years, and how can we, move it forward? I know that WANEP has been very instrumental in all of these.
Yes, we seem to have been dealing with conflict as an event. Where there's conflict, people are killed, and we throw in the police, we throw in the army to go and keep the peace. And then after that, everybody goes to sleep. But that's not the way to go. Conflict, once it starts, people are killed, and People will also want to kill because you killed my brother, or you killed my mother, I need to kill your father tomorrow. So if we don't have systems that are keeping to the process that, well, even though the police is moved in, the army is moved in, there's peace today, but what's going to happen tomorrow? You need to keep monitoring the process and get to know that, okay, maybe in the next couple of months, something could happen again. So what systems do you put in place? What mediation and dialogue process do you have to embark on to ensure that people are beginning to talk to each other so that they have lasting peace instead of that false peace that the police and the army gives us? I think that is what is missing in peace building in our country and maybe across Africa as a whole.
So looking at a more long-term based solution rather than the short-term where we just send in police officers and military officers. WANEP has done quite a lot of work in this country. I mean, I can remember as far back, I mean, many years back when we always are looking for WANEP to talk to us about one thing or the other. What would you say has been WANEP's main impact looking at your 20th anniversary? What are your proudest moments as far as helping these countries like Ghana with security is concerned?
WANEP is proud, and in fact, the whole of West Africa should be proud of the organization called WANEP because, in the first place, it's perhaps the only organization built by West Africans and is still alive for 20 years. So that alone is a huge achievement. Now, if you take a look at countries that went to war, Sierra Leone and Liberia that went to war because of certain happenings, today, if you go to those countries, you find out that the causes of those old wars are still there, sometimes tenfold, 20-fold. Then you ask yourself, why are they not going to war anymore? It is because WANEP and its members have put in place systems that ensure that when they see some of those alerts, some of those things, we put in, we know something is going to happen. So our response mechanisms just go to play. And so we are able to curb some of those wars that we've seen in the past. So these are some of the things. And if you come to, say, elections in West Africa, people have used the lessons to get at each other and to maim and kill people. So why do we go through very hectic moments through elections and still come out unscathed? It is because WANEP has this system of this early warning that is able to pick out electoral violence alerts and then relay those violence alerts to the stakeholders that have the response mechanisms. And then we are able to actually quickly stop the violence that may have be coming out because of the elections. So those are some of the key things that we've been able to do across Africa. And obviously we talk about our early warning system. You talk about the ECOWAS system called ECO1. ECO1 is made of the alerts from WANEP that feeds into ECO1. So you can sit in ECO1 and begin to find out what is happening across West Africa. And this is made live because WANEP is sending alerts from each country in West Africa into Abuja, where ECOWAS people can actually sit in their office and know what is going on across West Africa and begin to actually take response mechanisms across West Africa. So those are some of the few achievements that we've chalked.
Achievements, good. But then also as you go along, the bigger you grow, the more new challenges come on board. And I'm sure that terrorism in the sub-region has been a very big challenge, I mean, for all of us, and of course for an organization like you that looks into this. What are your thoughts about terrorism? I mean, we've also heard of what happened in Mali recently. I mean, I'm sure these are some of the things that make you, you know, after you've dealt with one problem, then the next one comes up. You deal with one problem, the next one. There's some of the challenges. Let me come to you, Ms. Bijoue. I mean, what do you make? What does WANEP make of the sub-regional threats of terrorism?
We are talking about violent extremism. We are talking about a country like Nigeria, Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso. Our work has taken us into those countries, and we keep working. As a matter of fact, violent extremism is one of the biggest indicators we have in our early warning system, and we have been working on that. I remember somewhere about 2-3 years ago, we had a specific work with women, for instance, concerning their role in fighting against violent extremism in their communities. I just heard you talk about the various internally displaced people in Ghana. So we are talking about these women and children, of course, that have been displaced by these violent extremism, the activity of these extremists. One of the challenges we are facing is you will see that a lot of partners are coming into these countries with their own agendas and with their own frameworks, not giving enough space to the nationals themselves to really debate on how to move on. So if you go into Mali, for instance, you have a lot of international partners. So they all come in with their own portfolio, with their own thinking, that this is how we can approach this problem. But you will see that the civilians themselves do not have enough space.
The interventions are not localized.
Yes, exactly, to be able to address the various issues. You go into Burkina Faso, we are always hearing about bombing here and there, and it's getting closer and closer. And this indeed is a threat to the whole of West Africa, including Ghana. So we have been doing a lot of work. We have been talking to stakeholders. The civil society has been working, and for us the early warning system is key, because that's where we get our information from. That's where we are able to analyze what is happening. We are able to recommend. And then upon the recommendation, the action, which is the response part, is what is very, very important. So it is not enough to send in, as Vincent has said, sending in the military. What can the civilians do themselves? What can the communities do themselves? So when you talk about National Peace Council, for instance, it's an infrastructure for peace that can be used in addressing some of these issues in the various communities, for instance. And that's one of the things that we have done. That is actually one of our success stories that we talk about here in Ghana and other countries in West
And I'm
Africa.
particularly excited that there's the gender angle, because the women and the children, they tend to be the people who bear the brunt anytime the men go crazy and they decide to fight. Anytime the men go crazy, because women are, they are less inclined to fight, and we see all our men go crazy all the time and fight. And so I'm really excited that there's inclusion of that gender angle. I'm just wondering how you think WANEP has been able to harness the woman power, or and of course, if you take Ghana, for example, there's much more women than men. Okay, so I'm wondering how you think WANEP has been able to take advantage of the numbers as far as women, when it comes to women, in dealing with some of these conflicts and this extremism, and how going forward from your 20-year anniversary, how you intend to bring a lot more of the women on board. Because when it comes to security, women are, they try to,
Okay, so if you take the three countries I talked about, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, for instance, a year ago, women across these three countries in the Sahel came together. So what do? We are the victims of all of this. What can we do about it? They had a big conference, and they had an action plan. They had ideas, because you will see that women receive more information than men. So how do we vehicle this information, and how do we use this information? If you go into Niger, for instance, women have heard when a place is going to be bombed by extremists.
And they reported it.
They report it.
Great.
Now, how do you report this so it can be authentic enough for action to be taken? So somebody somewhere will not be sitting and thinking this is a woman who is ranting, she's afraid, and she's just sending false signal. That's why we have the early warning system. So this information is channeled, and it goes through the process. Immediately, if there's a response that needs to be made, there's a response that has to be made. Women have been used also as watchdogs in the various communities. So when they hear something is happening, they start watching each other's house. So because extremists move in networks, so women have formed themselves in networks, and they observe, and then they move accordingly. This is some of the ways we have been able to harness. And of course, we build their capacity to be able to do that, because without capacity building, they will not be able to.
And I'm sure they have some security as well.
Absolutely,
they do have some security. Yes. And I'm going to wrap up this conversation, Mr. Vincent, by coming to you to find out how you have monitored all of these interventions, and what kind of impact you've seen it make, and the areas where you think you need to improve upon. Could you share that with us?
Yes, we're going to talk about our early warning system again that is based in all the West African countries. So there's a system sitting in Accra here, and then if you go and sit behind that system, you can find out what is happening in every single country in West Africa. So once we sit behind it, we call it a Peace Monitoring Center. So we are able to relay that information to our analysts. So our analysts take the information, and then they are able to say, well, from what we are getting from our system, if we do not take this action, so they actually recommend actions that stakeholders should take. Action A, B, and C. We need to take these actions and relay those action recommendations to people who need to take the actions. And if they take it, then we are able to actually have some peace in those countries. Now, having said that, that does not mean that we don't have challenges. Of course, peace builders and early warning is not prophecy. So it needs a lot of work to go in to be able to do that. So
what kind of work specifically? I mean, is there any way, for example, that the public can help? I mean, how do you, just to draw our attention to some of the things that we can help?
For instance, if you talk about our community monitors, there are people who are based in the communities. They don't necessarily mean to be like you and myself here in the studio, but there are people based in the, so they see what goes on in the community. So they'll feed the information into our system. But how do you keep these community monitors excited enough to continue doing that kind of work, knowing that this is the peace that we have to live in? So once we are giving this information, it is for ourselves and not for WANEP. So that kind of engagement needs to go on.
Okay, interesting. I mean, it's been a very long conversation, but if you followed it and you've really been attached to it, you know that it's quite short as well. But that's WANEP, their 20th anniversary. I need to wrap up because I've run out of time, but quickly, are there programs lined up for the celebration of the 20th anniversary? Which of you can take us through it quickly so we can call it a wrap?
Yes. Today, for instance, there was going to be a partners meeting. I think it's ongoing now, partners meeting in our office. Tomorrow there's going to be a grand opening, and the president is the guest of honor. And then the following day, which is Wednesday, we're going to have our General Assembly. So we have all members coming from all across West Africa, assembling here in Accra. And then there's going to be a big ball tomorrow night after the luncheon. So you're invited to come and join us at the party. And then on Thursday, I think there's going to be more exercises for us to also share what we have.
And as the president is coming, this is a fine opportunity for you to talk about party militialism, which is something that we've been dealing with. I'm sure that you've heard about it. Is this something that you'll be engaging the presidency on? I mean,
we have already engaged with the government and the presidency, and we actually shared some of the ideas of how to curb these, whether you call them militias or vigilantes. They are young men, unemployed, seeking job.
So that's an engagement that's ongoing.
It is ongoing.
All right. And it's 20th anniversary of WANEP, of course. I'm particularly excited about the work that they've done in this country, and we're looking forward to a society that helps them, helps them to help us keep safe. Vincent Azuma is the Regional Programs Coordinator in charge of research, monitoring and evaluation. He joined us with his thoughts as well. And also in the studio was the program officer in charge of women in peace building and peace education, Bijoue Birch. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for coming, and congratulations to WANEP.
Thank you very much.